Howdy everybody, it's me, Austin, of the Sun Cave Project and Psychedelic Mantis, soon to be renamed. And I just wanted to talk really briefly before I go into work and jam with the band tonight about a couple albums that I feel like are really influential and mean a lot to me. So I want to say like the first album that was like, wow, I like music like that. I was really into the band Men at Work. I had like a very corny, how do I put this? 11 years ago, I was 19. No, wait. This was 10 years ago, my bad. 10 years ago, I was 19, and I was kind of like still really young, so it was like the beginning of like being an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic anymore. But you know, I was young and it was more of like an adventure thing and it was fun and stuff. And like, I don't know, I was really into herping. And if you're not really familiar with that, that's just when you like go around and like kind of study and look at and sometimes catch and observe for a little bit and put them down. It's basically just like catching, observing, and releasing wild reptiles and amphibians. And I guess like in my head I felt like Steve Irwin. So, you know, you're under a piping hot Indiana humid ass sun, fucking playing around with the fucking 6-foot long black rat snake that's pissed at you and keeps trying to like fucking go up at you, and you swing them away really quick. Yeah, and I just had a lot of fun just catching snakes that summer. So I played that album a lot when I was on my drive to parks and stuff. Because, you know, I've always loved me some hiking. But Business as Usual by Men at Work, wow. When I heard the rest of the album, when I was finally like sober and not just listening to like Who Can It Be Now or Down Under, I was like, this album has absolute bangers on it. And it's criminally slept on. Like, honestly, in my opinion, there's a lot more songs that should have been a lot more famous off that album. Like, okay, I'll put it like this. Down by the Sea is an amazing, like, 7-minute, like, love ballad. Like, my ultimate dream in life, I'll know I'll make it when I got, like, a woman by me. And I'm sitting on the beach and I'm looking at Lake Michigan and the high tide's coming in and just... And I'm just staring. And we're staring and we're on a fucking towel or something. And a little speaker's playing Down by the Sea. I'm like, damn, this is everything that I wanted. And then in contrast and song theme, Catch a Star. Another amazing fucking song, in my opinion. Or Touching the Untouchables, the end part where the saxophone is playing the same riff as the rhythm guitar, and it sounds just insane, dude. And you could probably like hear his vocal style in some of my higher pitched stuff. I really liked his style because it just, you know, it just reminded, like, if I made like twinkly little guitar music, I feel like I would be like kind of similar to Colin Hay. And I guess nowadays I am. I'm like goth Colin Hay or something, making sad twinkly songs. But yeah, I could talk about that album forever. I mean, honestly, it's a classic in my opinion. I feel like everybody should listen to it. Another album that influenced me a lot is You'd Prefer an Astronaut by Hum. Now, honestly, like, this one is sort of like my American football. Like, I know a lot of people listen to, like, American football after, like, a really bad, like, breakup and shit. And trust me, I was, like, listening to that, but I was not vibing to it like I was to You Prefer an Astronaut. That's honestly an amazing work of art. And that beautifully illustrates, like, a man's perspective of being, breaking hearts and being broken up with and going through heartbreak as a dude that was really young and bit a little more off than he could chew. Like, that's basically, if you listen to the album front to back, that's what it sounds like to me. And there's some pretty deep songs, man. There's some very deep songs on that one. I think one of my favorites personally off that record is Suicide Machine. It'd have to be Suicide Machine, yeah. This one's controversial because, I know the band and the politics behind it, and I know that the lead singer can kind of be a fucking asshole. But The Smiths, self-titled, it's personally my favorite Smiths record. It's honestly probably the only Smiths record that I won't skip a song on. And, like, I'm not saying that I dislike the Smiths' other work. It's just, like, for some reason the energy on that record's the best. I mean, that's when it felt the most cohesive to me. And, maybe it's because I wasn't, like, a vegetarian, so I didn't really get into, like, meat is murder and shit like that, but the self-title, at least, it means a lot to me. I don't want to get into too many details, but I lost something that could have meant, like, it would have been amazing, privilege to be looking over. But I lost it. And there are a lot of songs that I basically, like, grieved about this too. Like, this was an album I grieved to a lot. So it still was a bit of a heavy listen to me, for me, when I go back to it. But nowadays I can kind of just, like, appreciate it for what it is. It kind of helps shape my music a little bit more, in more precise ways than just general ways. And I mean, honestly, I like the way Morrissey sings. I know it's kind of dramatic to some people, but I really get into that kind of operatic voice. I like unique voices personally. And Morrissey definitely has one. You can't deny that. Talk about more unique voices. I mean, look, I'm wearing a Title Fight hoodie right now, so let's talk about it. Hyperview, or was it Hypernight? One of the tracks was Hyperview, and the album was Hypernight, or the album was Hyperview, one of the tracks was Hypernight. I can't remember right now. Love that one. I know it's way different from the rest, but it sounded more like the type of music like I would make. And look, man, that was a very healing album after I got out of a breakup, because I started working at this acid plant months later after the fact, maybe like 5 or 6 months after we broke up, and I was still feeling really bad about it. Like, I felt worthless. I'm not even gonna lie, but that album's vaguely about heartbreak, and it was literally, if I didn't stop for, like, gas or anything, that album was the precise length of my commute to work. So, first track I put it in reverse, I start rolling out, and by the time I'm rolling to the guard shack at the acid plant I used to work at, last song's ringing out its last note. You know, it was perfect. And that entire first month of like April 2023 or March 2023 to April 2023, that was like the only fucking thing I listened to. And it was always like the whole fucking thing, front to back. Yeah, so that one always was really influential to me. And then just, you know, Floral Green, I think that's just like a given. I think anybody from my generation probably pretty fondly remembers that. And then, of course, Citizen, Youth, that's another influential one for me. But ironically, too, I have another article of clothing on. Alice in Chains, Dirt. Yep. That's another one. It's a dark listen. I don't like to listen to it the whole way through much these days, and I won't really listen to anything from it much these days because it is a dark album, man. It's telling a pretty dark story and brings back some not great memories from a few points in my life, you know. And then I think last for like the English music would be like not necessarily, I don't really like Nirvana. Did I already talk about this? I think I may have already talked about this. Sorry. My breathing treatment's kind of messing with my brain. But I think that about covers it. There's also a Russian band called Kino that I still love and I'll never skip. It's short for movie theater, or it means movie theater rather in English, but honestly, that band probably has influenced me more than any band ever in my life, and it's a fucking Russian band. I was 16, I decided I wanted to learn Russian, and then I finally buckle down and learn it and not fuck around and just try to pose like I knew it. And I was immediately met with Kino, and it blew my mind, and it got me into a whole other world of music, because it's all fairly the same as American stuff, but there's always that Russian presence in the music, the scale or the storytelling, something is still very ethnic in this mix. At least to us Americans, right? And I remember being blown away by Sector Gaza and all these other cool bands, DDT. But I wouldn't say they really influenced me as much as Kino did. I would say of any two Russian bands influenced me, it was Kino and Burak. Yeah, that's probably it. But yeah, it's Suncave, and this has been a little brief list of albums that I got into. I wanted to really tell my whole life, but at the same time, I figured that was kind of not really worth it, because I'm really only interested in the years that I was making music anyway. So yeah, that's about it. Peace out.